Hey everybody, Brian from Wrazel. We're here with Meilad Rafiei, President of WeCann. Meilad, good to see you as always.
Good to see you, Brian.
So just to start it off, tell us a little bit about what WeCann does.
WeCann is an entitlement consulting firm that also specializes in helping our clients find real estate that can be licensable for cannabis property or for cannabis facilities. And in addition to that, we have a third arm that allows us to help them with public advocacy as well too.
Very interesting. So how long has WeCann been around? When was it founded?
We started doing work in March of 2017. It really just started by a referral of a set of clients that needed help getting their business licenses.
Sure.
And we were very successful in helping them, and then one referral after another, and realizing that we needed to take on the real estate front too. We put that piece together, and WeCann was formed a few months after that.
Makes sense. So how moving forward, how have you differentiated yourself, or WeCann, from the competition?
A lot of people think we're lawyers right off the bat. We're not. We're more people and groups of professionals that have gone through these processes ourselves on a personal level in our own investments, and have kind of learned through our own pain points how to help manage through the process. So for instance, I operated a licensed dispensary in Santa Ana. I went through the entitlement process myself. I built out the facility because I owned a construction company, and then I operated it for about a year and a half before I sold it and brokered that transaction. And one of our other partners has been practicing commercial real estate transactions, any kind you can think of, from small to large. So he's been through all those avenues, and another one of our partners has been practicing public advocacy and running campaigns politically here for over 15 years.
Wow, very interesting.
Yeah.
So very, very deep. So I think you sort of already answered it already, but what are some of the valuable lessons you've learned since you've scaled and grown the company?
For our client standpoint, it's how important it is to plan for the long haul when it comes to a cannabis investment, and really being conservative in terms of how long it's going to take you to get open, and the funding you need for your holding costs. It's been a time old tale that I've seen happen time and time again with our clients. Ones that are very well prepared, and other ones even that are a little bit new to the game. It's always really important to do that, to do due diligence on the front end.
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
And I could understand, obviously, why some people are anxious to get things going, but
Sure.
you have to set those expectations, properly, right?
Correct, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So I guess that leads into some challenges. What are some challenges that have popped up that you didn't even see coming? That sort of is one, of course, but then anything from from that standpoint, from a consumer or even elsewhere?
Challenges, in the banking world, I'm a little surprised that it hasn't progressed, but I'm not too surprised at the same point because I didn't expect the federal government to be on board yet in terms of regulation.
Sure.
But, I believe we're going to see a lot more progress in that. Even companies like myself, who's not touching the product, are still having banking issues, and how we're depositing our cash and how we're collecting cash from our clients and the reporting that goes along with all that.
That makes sense.
So that's been a little bit surprising, but not too much. And then just gathering information, it's actually a lot harder than a lot of people realize. And also doing it from a group that in their history of running very successful businesses, they didn't have to deal with that. So it's the education of the necessity of it. A lot of times we're educating the municipalities too on maybe overabundance of certain things to help them, be more efficient on the back end of having to filter through everything.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. So have you guys ever raised capital before?
Yeah, personally for the licensed dispensary, we had to raise capital.
That's right.
And went through that with family and friends and investor groups that we knew. And then as a company, no, we've been fortunate where everything's been pretty well on the cash flow side.
That's good. Actually, though, you have raised it before. Any advice for cannabis companies trying to raise capital?
Again, the due diligence on the front end, have someone, even if you're great at crunching numbers and running pro formas and doing that, you really want 5 or 6 sets of eyes to look over it. Someone who doesn't have that emotional vested interest even, that's just looking at it as a professional to poke holes in your pro forma analysis. I think that's probably the most key. Having that solidified and then start building a lot more of your strategy strategically to mesh with what your resources are.
Right, and then of course there's the limited kind of marketing challenges, or there's the marketing challenges that might limit you there. What are some challenges that you've faced or that you faced when you were raising, or even WeCann, in marketing it, right? In marketing your services, what are some challenges you face?
I mean, marketing in general in the cannabis space is it's even when I had the dispensary, for instance,
Right.
it was like, hey, do we want to be one of the shops that put a billboard on the freeway? You know, sure, you want to drive traffic, but do you want to irritate the constituents that don't want to see that
Sure.
for your long-term branding?
Yep.
As a real estate broker, you know, a lot of times for our client's sake, we're not trying to cue the seller that, hey, this could be a licensable facility because the price is going to hike up. So there's issues in what business card do we have or don't have, you know, and there's issues on that end. And then
Right.
on the other end, just even trying to get space for our own office. I mean, leasing out office space for my consulting and the real estate brokerage, it's been a challenge if they see cannabis on there.
Do you think it would be handy if, say Facebook, Instagram, Google AdWords would allow advertising? Do you think they should allow advertising for cannabis?
Yeah, 100%. They do, I think, you know,
Ish.
and
Yeah.
they kind of, you know, maybe do a little bit of this,
maybe.
and depending on who's behind the table when it runs across their plate.
That's fair.
So I think they should make it just more of an open spectrum for everybody, and you know, obviously there's financial benefits for them too. If they build the regulatory pieces, they don't get in trouble for working with certain types of cannabis businesses. And there's been a lot of, you know, new headlines Weed Maps has made about switching over from working with licensed facilities. So I think that, you know, they got, at the end of the day, the operators and people that are in power need to have the want to build the framework, which is their concern.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
It is. And I think, I don't know, who knows how it'll turn around, but I
Yeah.
mean, at a point, you know, you think things are going to
It's
kind of push them
necessary.
in that direction, whether it'll be necessary. So,
Yeah.
exactly. All right, let's get back to some more questions about WeCann.
Sure.
So, out of all the accomplishments you've had over the years, what kind of has made you the proudest so far?
Honestly, the whole process with, I'll say two things. The whole process with getting a licensed dispensary and being able to operate it to a point where it was a valuable enough asset, where it was a large group from up north, Cookies and Connected, at the time they were together, that we were their first shop expansion in Southern California.
That's cool.
So to know that we had built something that had attracted attention from a group like that was so well established, it was a good accomplishment. And on the consulting side, you know, we were working hot and heavy for a while when everything started, and we got a bunch of referral business, and we were just putting our heads down and working. And then I looked back, and we just ran the numbers more recently, and we've put in somewhere between 60 to 70 entitlement applications throughout the state for our clients since March of 2017. And with a really high success rate. I don't have the exact number to it, but it's approximately around 90-95% success rate. And while that was all forming, you know, I just did another quick look at the real estate work we did, and we had also closed around 20 transactions on that side. So, you know, it's just nice when you've been working your butt off for a little while, and you
Sure.
look back and you go, okay, yeah, there's a good track record there.
Yep. And sometimes it's important to look back, you know,
Sure.
especially,
Yeah.
but I can understand why you're, you know, face forward anyways.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, it's because all the challenges that there are out there,
Right,
right?
right.
So what do you think is, from your perspective, what are some of the largest challenges that cannabis companies face in the industry?
For the newcomers, it's having the experience to be able to compete for some of these licenses. On the retail side, storefronts, you're almost always competing for a limited amount of licenses, and you're
Yeah.
competing against other operators who may already have 10 cannabis facilities operating that are licensed. And that's a heavy hitter on the application point process. So it's, you know, if you're coming in the industry from that standpoint, it's doing the due diligence to see what your resources are and seeing who you need to strategically partner with to get to the finish line.
Sure. So as a result, where do you see the industry kind of going as a whole in the next 5 years or so?
Next 5 years, I think the federal regulations will ease up from a banking level, even from a regulatory level, and I think, you know, that will really enact the mergers and acquisitions phase. You started seeing it a lot more happening in Canada as soon as it was federally legalized there.
Yep.
So I think there's a lot of companies that are just waiting patiently, and as soon as that happens, if the conversations aren't already happening, they will very, very soon for them.
Yeah. Any advice you'd give a growing cannabis company? Given those, you know, challenges and where you see the industry going? Any advice?
I would just say, just hunker down on compliance. I mean, I know I'm a little, that coming from me, yeah, that makes sense. But I really do think it's important, whether it's in-house team and investing in groups that understand compliance, and even if they don't understand it that well, have the time to research it on a daily basis and see what's changing.
Sure. And then finally, I guess, what do you think is the best way for an average person to capitalize on this rapidly growing cannabis industry?
Surround yourself with resources that have experience. Don't try to learn everything yourself. I think that's very important. And at the same time, make sure you do your homework on those resources and make sure they're the right partners for you long term.
Hey, Meilad, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank
I
you
really
so
do
much.
appreciate it.
I appreciate your time.
All right.